So with the advent of written languages and number systems, as well as this dramatically increased number of participants in your information ecosystem as a result of these larger trading groups, there is this potential to share enormous amounts of information amongst large numbers of individuals. But that potential isn't really realized for a very long time, in part because not very many people knew how to read or write or to do basic arithmetic using those number systems. And in part, it was because that information couldn't be shared easily and at low cost, right? The resources involved and the amount of time involved in sharing complex bits of written information was actually quite large. If you want another copy, say, of Plato's Theaetetus, then you're going to have to hire someone to copy it by hand. And that was an incredibly labor-intensive, resource-intensive way of reproducing such materials. However, once we see the advent of printing, first using wood blocks for entire pages, and then finally by introducing movable typeface, the amount of time it takes you to reproduce a book, and once you set up a typeface, the amount of reproductions you can create relatively cheaply and quickly dramatically increases. And as I note in the text, this results in a dramatic increase in literacy as well. And this allows then a lot of information to be exchanged across a wider group of individuals than ever before in human history. So this increases both the ease of access to information as well as the size and diversity of information ecosystems, because it brings a lot of people into this written language and number system world. Electronic communications dramatically increase both the ease with which we can exchange information and dramatically decrease the amount of time it takes. And so with the development of the Morse telegraph, then the radio, and then television, we see an increase in the ease and speed of access to information by a larger and larger number of individuals. And this also increases the size and diversity of information ecosystems. So at this point now, you can use a telegraph, a radio, a television to transmit information about things that are happening on one side of the world to the other side of the world almost at the speed of light. And in fact, the advantages were deemed so great, for instance, with telegraphs, that the amount of money that needed to be spent to create the infrastructure that was necessary for telegraphic communications, that was ponied up fairly quickly. That innovation really made inroads quickly. Now, the final episode that we're going to look at in this very abbreviated history is the evolution of the internet, which starts around 1969 as part of defense research projects and doesn't become the World Wide Web or the internet that we might recognize as something familiar until 1991, about 30 years ago, really. Now, the advent of the internet increases speed and access to information. It also increases the size and diversity of information ecosystems. So now that anyone with a cell phone or a computer or a tablet, anyone who can get internet access through public Wi-Fi systems, the library or the university or their homes, now has access to this enormous amount of information. And it's not just an exchange of information. Everyone is potentially capable of contributing to the information in the internet and getting that information from the internet. And it's so easy that oftentimes for lots of people, you don't even have to leave your house. In the next and last module of this first Information Ecosystems lecture, I'm going to summarize the points and themes that I think emerge in this incredibly abbreviated and superficial history of the evolution of life for 1.1 or 1.2 billion years and the development of information ecosystems in living organisms during that time period.